One thing that we do know for sure is when you have income, you need increasing income to keep up with inflation. If your income is remaining flat over time, that's going to be problematic.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. Glad you're with us today. If you'd like to get in touch with Mark Silverman, his number is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. You can call or text. And again, 520-333-7601. Mark, let's talk about predictable income, which is something that everybody knows. You need to be able to be assured that you're going to have a certain amount of money coming in. What are some of the retirement income sources that people might view as predictable but really aren't completely predictable? Give us some examples, if you would.
I'd say, Ron, probably the biggest one is rental income. Even though it might be predictable, you always run the risk of, you have somebody that's maybe not making payments or they end up moving out and you have it unrented for a while and you still have the upkeep of that and property taxes, et cetera. So rental income could be a big one. And I have clients that have rental income and I have some clients that don't. So the ones that seem to it works well for is they have some, they don't have all of their money in rental income. I think you need to diversify that because of the risk of, if somebody moves out, et cetera, like we just discussed. I'd say another one could be certain types of annuities, like even variable annuities. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the payments can vary. So it's, that's a problem if your expenses are, increasingly going up, as we know with inflation, and your payments aren't, or your payments are going down, that potentially can be a problem over time. Okay. Certain bonds, I think, could also be another issue because if bonds get called or come due and they're reinvesting at lower rates, even though you're getting interest again on the new bond, you might get a lower rate. So those payments can be decreasing. And one thing that we do know for sure is when you have income, you need increasing income to keep up with inflation. If your income is remaining flat over time, that's going to be problematic.
You have to have confidence that you have a certain amount coming in because otherwise you might lie awake all night wondering if you're going to run out of money. Is there really such a thing as having guaranteed income in retirement? And and who would it be guaranteed by?
Right. I think there's a couple different ways. I mean, obviously, Social Security for most people is their only guaranteed income. And some people can argue that, it's going to run out of money, this or that. The government can and will print money. So I think Social Security is probably safe. The money that you get might not be worth much if they keep printing money with inflation and something like that. But at least that money's coming in. I think it's a safe place to have the government issue it. Certain pensions, it's guaranteed income. Most pensions, unfortunately, don't go up, but you do have guaranteed income there. For most pensions, I think you're safe. There are certain types of annuities that do have guaranteed income, but you also need to understand that they're only as safe as the issuer or the guarantee or the insurance company. So you want to make sure if you are doing something like that, you're buying them from a company that's highly rated. If they're not, then that could be problematic as well.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates, and we're talking about predictable income. Give us an example of a time when you saw somebody who did not establish enough predictable income. They relied too heavily on the stock market, and then things just didn't work out for them.
There are issues when you deal with that when you're taking certain withdrawal rates out, and those can vary. If you look at the last big correction we had, you have people that are pulling out of their investments when the market's going down. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Because even though the market is coming back, if you're pulling money out of your account, when it does come back, you're not getting that full gain, if you will. You're not fully getting all your money back because of the fact that you're withdrawing money, whether it's a monthly or quarterly or annual basis for living expenses. So it's important that you understand that and that you have a plan and you're not taking too much money out and you have a safe withdrawal rate as far as pulling out of your investments.
Well, you talked about inflation just a moment ago when we were discussing Social Security. And even if you do establish some predictable income streams, what do you do when inflation decreases the buying power of that income?
Well, inflation's here to stay. And even though inflation, if you ask the government, is low, I think they they say it's around 2% now. When we do financial planning for clients, we use a rate of 3%. And some people might argue that might be low. I just had a client in here recently that said that they were using 5%, which I think is extreme. But if we continue with the situation, we may see 5% at some point, which will be very, very problematic. But, I think that's why it's important that you have money that's in growth vehicles, whether that be, stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, et cetera. You need to have a certain amount into those type of things. You can't have all your money tied up in cash or into bonds, because you're going to be losing to inflation over time, and that's problematic. So you need to have a certain amount into things that are going to keep ahead of inflation, which, unfortunately, most of that's going to be, some type of investment that's involved in the stock market.
I know that you love doing this, putting together a plan for someone, and so that they do have predictable income. What are some of the reactions that you get from clients when you show them how a reliable and predictable retirement income is actually possible for them to achieve?
Well, that's part of the planning process. It's uncovering everything that they want to do in retirement, coming up with their spending plan or budget, depending on which term you want to use, looking at their goals and objectives and putting a plan together and looking at all their sources, whether they have predictable income, unpredictable income, looking at all their assets that they've accumulated, looking at Social Security, et cetera, pensions if they have it, and putting it all together to show them, if they do plan on retiring, meaning they're not going to work any longer, how they're going to maintain that income level to cover the expenses that they're going to have, as well as cover for inflation that's increasing. For a lot of people that we're planning for, if they're retiring in their 60s, they're probably looking at a 30, in some cases 40-year retirement. And so we need to make sure that they have enough money to last so they don't run out of money. So, putting that plan together is great and people get a good picture. Does that mean when we put a plan together, everybody is successful and they can do everything that they set out to do? Unfortunately, no. But if you do have time, there are some things that you can do to change that so you can get in shape. That's why it's important to reach out sooner rather than later, because the one factor that you have is the more time you have, the more options you have. The less time you have, the less options you have. And again, not everybody we do a plan for, it comes out perfectly the way that we wanted. But what I will tell you is it's all reality. What we do is show you exactly where you are. We're going to be honest with you and tell you, here's where you are, here's where you want to be. Maybe you're there, maybe you're not, but here's what you can do to get to there. Maybe sometimes you can, maybe sometimes you can't. It's all about trade-offs and understanding that.
You know how much I enjoy giving out your phone number to folks out there, and hopefully they will call and then make something really good happen. What happens when someone places a phone call to the number I'm going to give in just a moment?
Sure. So the only way that we can determine if I can help you or not, and I'll help you one way or the other. Again, if you're not a good fit, I'll point you in the right direction or give you some advice. But the only way we can tell if I can help you to understand if we're a good fit is to reach out and have what we call an introductory call, where we'll spend some time on the phone and get to know your situation, answer any questions that you have, and kind of go from there. And if we do determine that we want to move forward to the next step, we'll have you come into the office and have a formal meeting as well. So it's just reaching out and determining, it's very low key. The only thing you're investing in is about 20 minutes of your time, but I can tell you it's well worth that time to determine and get you the right advice that you need.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money. All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. This show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.